From Radio DePaul, Chicago's college connection.
My father spent 3 years restoring this car. It is his love. It is his passion.
I'm Michael Cera, and human skin is my passion.
I learned to feel things I'd never felt before. Love, jealousy, passion for disemboweling.
Look at all the passion on that wall.
Well, jazz flute has always been a small passion of mine.
It's a bathroom.
It's not just a bathroom, David. It's a passion project.
My passion project. Destroying someone else's passion project.
This is Passion Project with your host, Peyton Basden.
Hey y'all, what's up? Guys, guess what? You're never gonna believe it. It's a new episode of Passion Project. Just as the doctor ordered, he prescribed so much Passion Project for everyone, and I am here to deliver. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's so nice to have you returning to the show. I'm returning to the show. You're returning to the show as a valued listener, but we've got a new element coming in this week. Someone who hasn't been on the show before, somebody who's been a long-time fan of the show, and somebody who I've been a long-time fan of personally, just as an individual. We met many a year ago, and now he's here to impart wisdom upon all of you. Who are you, good sir?
A lot of these things that you're saying are very true, and I would say that the feeling is completely mutual. I am a big fan of you, Peyton Basden. I remember a lot of the laughter that ensued within the first few days of our meeting, and I'm happy it's come to this point. My name is Zachariah Sinan, but I just go by Zach, and I am 22 and 5'9".
Those are the two greatest things to be, I think.
Yeah.
After age 22, it's a clear downhill. That's where everyone peaks.
Right.
And 5'9" is a very comfortable height.
I think so. You know, it's 5'9" on the driver's license. So let's just roll with
I'll give
that.
you 5'10". I'll allot you that.
I appreciate that.
There's been a few guests on the show who've just come out and shared their heights, and it's not required, but I think it's pretty valuable. I think for posterity and the sake of the record, I'm 6'1".
Wow.
So we're being open and vulnerable today.
Yeah, I appreciate that information.
Yeah.
You do impose a very 6'1" presence, but with a lot of warmth, I would say.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. In the spirit of getting to know more about you, Zach, I've piloted a new segment in this season of the show. In the fourth season of the show, it's called the Passion Probe, and it's so our audience and me we can know a little bit more about you before we dive into our subject for the week.
Of course.
So, very first question. It's a classic. Zach, are you a preferrer of cats or dogs?
This is a great question, and I am very glad that you asked this, because this is an answer that I'm very passionate about. It's cats, but it's not always been cats. I would say when I was extremely young, I used to watch a lot of puppy videos on YouTube, and it wasn't until my mom had gotten a cat that my opinion on the whole matter changed. I really wanted her to get a dog. And then all of a sudden, my cat appeared out of nowhere, like a meteorite, a fluffy meteorite of sorts. And I did that kind of thing of pretending not to like him for the first couple of days, and then he just won me over, and now my Instagram reel algorithm is filled with cat videos. So that's
beautiful.
That's the trajectory. Yeah.
I find my experience included is just sometimes cats win you over.
I think so. You know, I think dogs. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong; they're very amazing as well in their own right. But I feel like a lot more dogs are friendly to people than cats. And on the flip side of that, when you are able to win the love and trust and compassion of a cat, it feels like this special thing that is earned and not given.
Right. And that's a beautiful moment in your relationship.
Yeah.
With the cat, which is awesome. This next question, I'm sure you've equally thought a lot about and have a lot of personal experience with. Would you prefer to have 4 arms or 4 legs?
Wow. 4 arms or 4 legs? I'm gonna give the heavily anime-inspired answer here and say 4 arms.
Awesome.
I'm a big fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, which just so
Shout out.
happens. Yeah.
Shout out.
Big one.
Mhm.
Big one. A lot of enjoyment stems
I've
out
heard
of.
great things.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if you knew this, but Satoru Gojo is actually a big fan of this show.
I believe it.
He listens often.
Honestly, I think I would cast you as Satoru Gojo now that I think
Really?
about it.
I think I could do it.
I think you could. I think you have that essence. But Ryomen Sukuna, not to give too many spoilers,
Mhm.
but eventually gets to the point in the series where his true form is revealed and happens to have 4 arms. So because of the fact that this demon god king curse has 4 arms, I'm gonna go ahead and roll with that.
One of the best justifications I've heard for 4 arms.
Thank you.
In answering the question, because everyone's like, "Oh, I'd be able to do more stuff," but this is really well thought out.
Yeah.
and really well considered. Amazing.
Has a lot of deep meaning to it, for sure.
Yeah, really, really, really deep stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, do you have a favorite number?
Favorite number? Wow. I would say it would have to either be 7 or 21. The reason why I would say 7 was because I was born on the 7th day of the 7th month of the year, July 7th.
Wow.
So 7 has always kind of been my my lucky sort of number, and 21, it's a multiple of 7. It's kind of like 7's cooler older brother.
Awesome.
But maybe 7 has more potential than that older brother. I don't know. It depends on the day.
21's the 777.
That's
777. That's luck. So
That's what I'm saying.
very sound logic operating
Thank you
here.
so much.
Yeah. Another equally deep question. Favorite breakfast food?
Favorite breakfast?
This one is a toughie.
Huh. Favorite breakfast? Well, I've kind of fallen out of love with it over the years. I'm not going to lie. Sorry to disappoint all of the fans of this particular breakfast food. But there was a point.
Mm-hmm.
There was a period in my life where I just ate French toast. Wow. Nonstop.
I love French toast.
It really is. My mind was blown by it when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember my dad making it for me, and I was like thinking in my head, so you dip this piece of bread into eggs, which are savory,
right?
And it is supposed to be consumed in a way that makes it sweet.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I did a good blowing up sound effect, but
I think that's good.
That was my mind.
good.
That was
Yeah.
my mind,
Yeah.
So French toast, honorary favorite breakfast, no longer consumed. I'm not really much of a get up super early in the morning and eat first thing at 8 a.m. kind of guy. I think I usually wait till 11 to 12 o'clock to actually eat my first real meal of the day. Usually I'll have a smoothie or something with some almond milk and a frozen fruit variety blend. But yeah, that's the name of the game.
Beautiful. It's a fun game to play.
Thank you. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Big French toast lover.
Yeah.
I just think it's a quality dish.
I agree.
Yeah. Glad we can see eye to eye.
Yeah.
Zach, would you rather have the ability at will to turn yourself into a bird or a fish?
That's a good question. I would say probably a bird. To be able to be one with water and with water being habitable would be a very interesting experience to be able to breathe it in, I think. But I'm going to have to disappoint the fish and water lovers and say, bird would have to be my answer. I think if I had the opportunity, I just couldn't pass up the feeling of soaring through the sky like an airplane.
Do you have a particular bird in mind that you're that really evokes or like speaks to you?
I could be very stereotypical and go for the eagle, embody that patriotic, bald-headed American spirit.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would say probably a sandpiper.
Oh, amazing.
I have a particular relationship with the sandpiper bird. I had the luck and the fortune of being able to do this incredible play last year called By the Sea, by the Sea, by the Beautiful Sea. And I played this little character named Ace, who happened to have a very particular relationship with a imaginary sandpiper bird. And that was, I think that was a special relationship that me and that imaginary sandpiper shared. Yeah, well, you were there.
I was there. I saw the show, and it was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
You brought that relationship to light.
Yeah, I had
in
to.
like a very real, visceral way.
I appreciate that.
And to make it whole by being able to turn into a sandpiper at will.
Yeah,
I think would be the beautiful close to this like story.
That's the metamorphosis.
Yeah.
That is the metamorphosis.
Zach, I've got one more question for you.
One
final question. The last question on the probe. Perhaps the most thought-provoking question. Zach, do you have a memory, an experience of yours that you think you hearken on and you're like, wow, that's purely happy or pure bliss, joy that you reflect on?
I definitely have a few. So not to be worried. There are a few to pick from. So this past summer, I had the amazing fortune of having been able to travel to Europe. I did a little study abroad in Greece, on the island of Hydra. And before having gone there, I made a little quick pit stop in Barcelona in Spain. And this was a trip that kind of just really came out of the blue. The idea first floated around with my friends and I as just a little bit of a joke, like, why not? Why not take advantage of proximity? And all of a sudden, plane tickets were bought and people were being flown. And here I was on the first day after having met up with one of the friends I had gone on the trip with. And we were walking, we were roaming, and it's that feeling of having just arrived into a new country, jet lag, but bliss, euphoria, curiosity, and awe all mixed into one, and just walking in the city of Barcelona, within the Gothic Quarter section of the city, and just looking at the buildings and looking at what felt to be a different world.
Wow.
And that was just an incredible feeling. I was like, here I am. I'm alive.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's beautiful. I hope one day to go to Spain. It's on my bucket list.
I highly recommend that the bucket is
filled or emptied. I don't know
filled,
how bucket
emptied,
list
utilized.
the metaphor. Yeah, I'll check in on that bucket.
We can make metaphors. I believe in us.
Yeah. In a metaphorical sense, I guess. Life is art.
Yes.
And art is what we make of it.
Right.
Many people I know consider the art of creating food to be one of the highest art forms, one of the most interesting. Zach, I'm under the impression you came here today to talk about cooking.
I did.
And so tell me a little bit more about this mysterious, magical idea, this concept I've heard nothing about. Zach, what is cooking?
What is cooking? Well, that is a great question that I'm very glad you asked. Cooking is love. Cooking is life. Cooking is joy itself. Cooking is the kind of thing, eating specific meals is the kind of thing that can evoke a visceral reaction within yourself and cause you to remember something that you didn't know you could remember. A specific hot summer's day or winter night with some sort of meal.
Wow.
So I think I passed the test of being as vague as possible in that sequence just now. But
It was again another beautiful metaphor.
yeah.
I guess speaking, and let's get real practical and visceral. But metaphors are beautiful, and I think that is a very true statement that food allows us to connect with parts of ourselves that were either long forgotten or newly discovered through that process. Has cooking allowed you to perhaps remember something or discover something about yourself, like that sort of practice and that art form?
I think I feel most connected to my parents when I cook. I was very fortunate in the sense that I grew up with two parents that both really knew how to throw it down in the kitchen. And they both had very distinct styles. I would say they both excelled at very specific niches and things that were beautiful and incredible in their own right. And much in the same way that a child is, the combination of all the best parts of their two parents, I feel like when I'm in the kitchen, I'm able to combine not only the influence of one parent, but both parents while I'm there and use all of the love and memory that I grew up with the meals that I ate in the kitchen when I'm cooking to transfer that love to others.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Were there any dishes, like, in particular that your parents made that you still are like, oh, yeah, this is the best? Or, like, if you go home, you're like, I need to have this?
I am, fun fact about myself, I am Middle Eastern. My father is from Egypt, and my mother is from Lebanon. And I don't know if you knew, but lamb it's a big one. It's a big one in the Middle East.
I'll tell you, lamb is my favorite meat. Fun fact about me. It just is. I love it.
I think we're on the same page here. I think we're
Yeah.
My mother, be it lamb roast, lamb chops, lamb whatever, lamb smoothie.
Oh, yum.
If that so happened to exist, I think I would drink it. Truthfully, if it's made by my mother, I think my mom just really is incredible at making lamb. And that with anything that her imagination spurs her to make alongside it, say lamb chop with mashed potatoes or some kind of a soup or whatever it might be. Because although my mom obviously is heavily inspired culturally by her roots in terms of her cooking, she's worked in restaurants and whatnot. And has also herself been inspired by other cultures. So that's the beautiful thing, I think, when I go home for a meal, is that I'm not only cooking, or rather my mom is cooking for me, but I'm not only, having what she makes, deriving from our cultural background, but there are also things that stem from things that have inspired her and influenced her from other cultures as well in their culinary niches. So it's the best of
every world.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing that like combines all our influences in food, in these meals, and it's so personal, and it brings together things like culture and history and sort of like the contemporary circumstances you live in all together. Which is so strange because we eat because we need to,
right?
Because we have to survive. But like, there's this whole other level to it. How did you sort of adapt your cooking style, or like take the lessons or like those influences from your parents when you started cooking for yourself?
Yeah. So I would say the point in my life where I genuinely started to cook for myself and take after every meal with full responsibility and planning and structure was when I was about 18 or 19 years old. I'd, cooked things before, but never, consistently on a daily basis for 2 or 3 meals a day. Because at this point I was living with just my sister. It was just my sister and I. So we, kind of just cooked for ourselves and took care of ourselves in that sense. And at this time, I was extremely obsessed with counting calories and logging everything it was that I ate down to the atom into MyFitnessPal. I'm not sure if you've heard of that app.
Maybe.
Basically, the way that the app works is that you log everything it is that you eat throughout the day, and it gives you a pretty good rough guesstimation of how many calories you are eating, as well as the macro and micronutrients. And I was very much obsessed with going to the gym at that time and meeting, certain caloric goals and macronutrient goals. And something I realized a little bit after was that I was consuming food purely as a source of fuel or for fuel within my body. And looking back at that, it's just so strange because within my culture and within the way that I grew up, food transcended far beyond just the realm of fuel. It was love. It was a memory. It was a way of life. And so I think I've really found myself reconnecting with the idea of, yes, food is fuel, but in addition to that, food is something to be enjoyed and eaten with love. And I've been having fun in the kitchen for the first time in such a long time, coming off the back of 2 years at DePaul, having had battled it out at the what do they call it, the stew. The dining hall. And all respect to the dining hall, but I feel that I've finally been able to express my creativity on the fly in the kitchen, starting with one idea and ending with another in the best possible way.
What is your philosophy to like approaching the kitchen? I guess when you go, you're like, man, it's lunchtime.
It's lunchtime.
How do you solve that problem?
I would say the problem, or at least the solution to the problem, always starts with a pan, olive oil, garlic, and onion. Chopped up, minced very finely. Olive oil goes in first. Let the heat rise a little bit. Let the pan, sizzle up, and then you throw in that olive oil, or the olive oil in this case has already been thrown in.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
If you're following along at home, make sure you already got the olive oil in.
Yes, please. Don't listen to me on everything. But listen to this. Garlic, and then onion. If you're feeling fancy, some cut up shallots, something of the sort. And I think everything just flies on from that point. Sometimes eggs go in.
Ooh.
Sometimes it starts the base for a beautiful pasta sauce.
Wonderful.
At other times, I'm giving new life to a previously cooked meat that I have in the fridge, such as chicken thighs or ground beef, giving it new flavor, newfound life. I've found that structure, that that beginning: olive oil, garlic, and onion. It makes miracles happen.
When you approach these, is it from sort of, I guess, for lack of a better word, a utilitarian perspective of like, oh yes, I've got 2 chicken thighs in the fridge I need to eat by this day,
Yeah.
and like, oh, this is what I've got, let's see how I can maximize it? Or is there a large like spirit of play at work where it's like, I got chicken, what would happen if I put it in here?
I love this question because I definitely think that it is a little bit of both. There definitely is a big sense of play and spontaneity. And sometimes the experiments don't always work. I'm here to tell you this firsthand.
Wow.
First report that it doesn't always work. Just because you go in with an idea or the conviction and the passion, it doesn't somehow make it guaranteed to taste like a Michelin star meal in a college student's apartment kitchen. What? But I think that moment when something you didn't know could works is when you have that aha and you think to yourself, okay, if I have someone over, if I have my friends over, or I go on to have children someday, could this be one of those staple dishes that people find synonymous with Zach?
Right. Yeah. This is Zach's dish.
This is Zach's dish.
We call it the Zach.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be excited to try. Are there any dishes that you've made that are in contention for this, or like?
Funnily enough, the one I'm going to talk about is one that I've only made once. And it kind of does go against all of the principles of spontaneity and play I've just
amazing,
been, preaching about. There was this one night, so I was at Trader Joe's, and the way that I buy groceries, I'm kind of thinking in the moment, okay, so if I buy, this ingredient and that ingredient, I can, utilize, let's say, the set of chicken thighs or, whatever my source of protein might be with both this, I don't know, focaccia bread that I'm going to buy and make it into a sandwich with, or I could also use it to make some pasta with. And so I kind of had this last minute spur of inspiration to buy a bunch of beef stew ingredients. So here I was running around Trader Joe's like 10 minutes before closing, getting the carrots, getting the potatoes, getting the shallots, getting the beef chunks rather. Although beef chunks, I'm sure whatever they are
yeah, that probably exists. You can buy those somewhere.
Hopefully. And it sat in the fridge for about a day or two, and I finally, it had kind of been, sitting at the back of my mind. I was like, okay, I have to commit to this. This is probably going to be a lengthy process to make beef stew for the first time. But eventually that night came where, I had to put my pride aside, and I had to be like, okay, this is the night that the beef stew is going to come to life. And so I looked up a couple of recipes. My sense of spontaneity, my sense of play, and the ego that stems from that had to be put on the back burners this night. I had to give in to these recipes, but in the spirit of bringing them back from the back burners, in the spirit of spontaneity and play, I kind of saw what was going on these websites with okay, minced garlic, onion. Okay, I'm great at that. That's my thing. I know how to do that. White wine, red wine. I got red wine vinegar. Let's go with that. And then let's do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I did a little phone a friend situation.
Awesome.
I was like, listen, brother, I'm gonna need your help on this one. And I was, I was, I put in, my famous base, my famous, start. I threw in the beef chunks, and I, just kind of, tossed it around, put some seasoning, coated the beef chunks in flour, something I had never done before that was apparently supposed to give it a nice sort of coating or whatever. And then, he was like, okay, now it's time for you to put in the beef stock. And I was like, beef stock? And beef stock is going into the pan. I'm like, oh my God, it's steaming. I need to open a window. And then all of a sudden, the thing goes off and all steam is all over the apartment. And the dream looked to be crumbling right in front of my eyes. And, eventually when I was able to calm that catastrophe down,
Right.
I finally grew the courage to start throwing all the vegetables I had cut up in, the carrots, the potatoes, the this and the that. And I was like, so, what do I do now? I asked my friend. He was like, well, you wait. You wait. For the witch's brew, for the concoction to find life, find flavor. And over the hours, I just, slowly added things, and it was trial and error. And then eventually I got to a taste after, I think, an hour and a half of it, that I was satisfied with. And I left it, and it was done, and I finished it the next day. And I tried it, and I was like, wow, I did it. I made this beef stew. I did this. It might have taken me 3.5 hours, but I did this. And the first thing I thought, I need to call my friends. And I called my friends. I said, listen, you guys are going to come over tonight, and you are going to try this beef stew. And they did. And they loved it. And, we had it with rice and avocado, and it was just, wow. It was great eating it myself, but eating this thing that took so much time and sharing that with friends was part of the love. And you could see how much they responded to that. And they gained a newfound respect for me and the craft of cooking, and even, dare I say, asked me for the recipe. And I said, wow, my friends, the recipe is fun. I might not have actually said that.
That's a very beautiful sentiment.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, guys, maybe the real recipe was the friends we made along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I think so.
There's something so special. Longtime friend of mine, friend of the show, previous guest, Rocco. I know you've met him before. He once cooked me a meal. And it was just chicken and pasta. And it was like pasta salad and chicken. It was one of the simplest meals I've ever had. And it tasted so good. Just because he cared and he put time into it and he crafted something. And I think that's one of the biggest, best things about, like, eating food. Is that sort of care that goes into it. Yeah. If we I miss him dearly.
I do as well.
I hope he's doing well.
Me as well.
Sending love, and I hope maybe one time we can cook together again.
Yeah.
Maybe all of us will make a stew.
I think so. We can, be like the three musketeers, just
for stew.
For stew.
Three stew musketeers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Now, Zach, maybe now's the time. This is the segment of the show where we open up and we get really vulnerable. So please feel free to withhold anything. But are there any recipe failures where you tried something and it just did not work?
Oh, boy.
I don't want to open this up on air.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to take off my jacket.
Things are getting real reflective.
And I really don't want to be this guy, but I think there have been so many failures for me in the kitchen that in the spirit of playing and enjoying and being spontaneous, that I threw them away, or at least the idea of ever having eaten them away as quickly as the terrible idea it was to have made them in the first place arrived.
Wow.
So they're really, like I said, there is nothing that comes. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I've had some very bad experiments with rice noodles in particular.
Interesting.
I think now it's all coming back. There's this one time during freshman year that I got very experimental with rice noodles, and I tried to make some kind of like a soupy sort of, hearty kind of thing with them, and I tried to add all sorts of things, chicken and mushrooms and like I think spinach and it sounds good in theory,
Mm-hmm.
and in order to like add flavor to the broth, I think I used some like bouillon powder, if you're familiar, just some regular water, but I just remember it really didn't come together in the way that I had hoped it to, and those rice noodles, they looked miserable. They really did, and it sat in my fridge for like about 2 or 3 days, and I think I'm not really sure why I kept it, because in the back of my head I was thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stomach this, but I powered through it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember thinking with every bite, with every sip, things could have been different with this one, I think.
Wow.
If I had, thought about this a little more. But
Mm.
albeit it was made in a rush.
Okay.
I did
Okay.
have class like I had like I think it was like 40 minutes to like make the food, eat the food, and then like run to class.
Wow.
And I made
Yeah.
it with like a minute to spare.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But it kind of motivates you to try again.
Yeah,
To like do better.
for sure.
If I do recall correctly, you work at a restaurant.
That is true.
Is this true? How does that how does the idea of your work in a restaurant changed your relationship
Yeah.
with cooking our food, and what do you think that's like?
For sure. Well, the restaurant that I work at is set up in this really incredible way in that, and not to say that this is not any restaurant
Right,
that has
right.
ever existed, but the kitchen is right in front of your face.
Ooh.
Like all of the main courses and pasta dishes that are being made by the 3 cooks
Mm-hmm.
are right in front of you. It's for the entire restaurant side to see, and it's this idea of we don't have anything to hide.
Mm.
All the love and passion and effort, blood, sweat, and tears that's gonna go into this is gonna be put on full display. And I'm, coincidentally, I'm not really in charge of.
You don't own this
cooking.
restaurant.
I don't own this restaurant.
Interesting.
I can't really amount to the level and skill that the 20-year or the basically like the main guy, the main chef guy. He's been working there since the opening of the restaurant at 1996, or I think it was 1996 is when it
Right.
opened, and he's a machine. Like 6 or 7 pastas at once. I really don't know how he does it, and I'm very fortunate, because my duty, my role is that of a cashier, and so I'm just bagging up the pastas and
Mhm.
sending them to delivery drivers and handing them out to customers and stuff. But while I'm doing this, I'm also able to witness right in front of my eyes all that is going into exactly what it is that I am packaging, I am handing out to these customers. So there's not really that sense of disconnect, and
Mhm.
I feel like with a lot of restaurants, especially in America, there's sort of this idea or this sense of secrecy of like there's something to hide, and it's like,
Mhm.
what are you hiding?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Right.
happening?
Why won't you let me in the Olive Garden kitchen?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
what are you trying to keep from me?
what's going on in there?
How do you really make all those breadsticks?
How does that happen? So yeah, that's something I really appreciate, and I love working there. I really do.
Connecting with the process is really important, and I feel like we're obsessed with the process.
Mhm.
You see cooking depicted in popular media in so many different ways. You have your competition shows. You have like, oh yeah, this is the best chef, or like, what if they were all chefs but there was this crazy constraint, or what if Gordon Ramsay just yelled at them all the time?
Gordon Ramsay,
my man, with his frozen Walmart risotto that I think has 1,200 calories in each serving.
Oh, he
which
has
might kill you.
A frozen Walmart risotto now.
He does.
I never would have thought that he would have gotten to that point of,
that's
of
what
commodifying his
he's
love.
That's what he's doing right now.
Well,
and he's got like mini beef Wellingtons that are like appetizers.
Wow.
It's a whole thing.
Well, if you saw his face on a packaging in the frozen aisle at Walmart, you probably wouldn't be able to resist.
Yeah. So go ahead and try that. Go look for it. But we're not sponsored. I'm not going to say we're even promoting it. We're just saying it's a thing that exists.
I just found out it existed, so I'm definitely not sponsoring. Gordon Ramsay, I sorry to jump in, but and I'm very sorry to my biology teacher from freshman year of high school, because while she was teaching the thing that she had gone to college for, and I'm sure had probably spent many nights stressing about with exams and whatnot, I was watching Gordon Ramsay videos in class right in front of her face, and for some reason thought that was a good idea. Why did I do that?
Maybe it started your passion.
I think
young.
it did.
You knew your calling.
I think
and
so.
it just sort of like worked out magic. I don't see you doing much science often.
No.
But I do know you cook.
In a way, cooking is science.
Right?
I think so.
Right. There's chemistry there. There's something going on.
I believe so.
Yeah, heat and water.
Yeah.
There's something there boiling.
Mm.
There's like these two hemispheres of
Yeah.
popular cooking media, where you've got like the reality shows. You've also got some more scripted series, which I guess you could say use food or cooking as like a delivery system for a narrative, or like a way to describe things. I know in the process of setting up this episode, I asked you for a photo of yourself that we could use for promotion, and you sent me a photo of Carmi from The Bear.
Yes.
And you're like, this is me, but you can just put my face on top of it.
Yep.
So I presume you're a large fan of the show.
I am an extremely big fan of The Bear. I remember my first introduction to The Bear. It was actually my mother, coincidentally, who was watching the series, and I felt bad because there was like this string of time, this period of time in which my mother had just kept recommending me things to watch, and I kept saying that I was going to watch it, and never actually followed through with it. So I'm very sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. And she recommended it to my brother and I for a little while, and there was this period of time, it was actually right before I had moved to Chicago for DePaul, where my brother was staying with us, and he got on to watching it before I did. So I was like, uh-oh, I'm losing, the best child war. I gotta chime in on this. And I think it was at like episode 5 or 6. It was already like pretty well into the first season of the show. And as soon as I sat down with him, I couldn't stop. It pulled me in a very specific kind of way that I don't think any series has ever done before, because it did it in such a unique and unprecedented way. It felt so, it was obviously it's a dramatized, television series, but at the same time it felt like a food documentary. And I was just as invested in the food as I was the characters and the relationships that went into the making of that food. And that was something I'd never really seen before in a show. And the acting, was so natural as well. And I mean, as with a lot of great shows, it's always like, okay, the acting is great, but this was just on a whole nother level of like, these feel like real people. And I remember my mother telling me, and take this as you will, but she said that she saw a little bit of me in Carmy in some ways, in the way that, you know, my specific niche as a person outside of cooking and what I pursue relates to Carmy or parallels Carmy in what he does. And so I started watching it with that idea in mind, that like, maybe this is me. Am I Carmen?
I think
Is that me on the screen? Wow.
who put this mirror on my
Who
TV?
put this? No, it doesn't go to that extent. But that's just, you know, I think it's a very natural thing to do, to find bits of yourself within characters in your favorite series and movies and whatnot. And you know, I think I found a little bit of myself in every character, you know. And that's what was beautiful. You know, they felt like real people.
Wow. Similarly to how you find bits of yourself in the food you make, in the food you consume. Not literally. To my knowledge, I don't think you've cooked any part of yourself.
Not quite.
Okay,
Not just
that's
yet.
good.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't recommend that. I'll be honest. Bold statement from me. But Zach, I regret to inform you, our time here has come to a close. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for speaking on food, on cooking. Do you have any last words, impart a wisdom you wish to impart on the audience about cooking, about life, about you, about the heart?
I would say that when I started cooking, when I was about like 14, 15 years old, and made my first ever dish, which I think was maybe like a turkey sandwich or like an egg omelet or something like that, I was scared. I was scared of the stove. I was scared of what could potentially go wrong. And here I am, all these years later, and it feels like the pan, the stove, ingredients, they're my friends now. They're my friends. They are there to uplift me and propel me and to help me toward new heights. And I would recommend toward a lot of people, if there's a niche, if there's something that you're starting out with and it doesn't go according to plan toward the beginning, or you feel fearful or scared, I advise you to invest in that, embrace that, and keep going and see where that fear can take you, because you might end up fearless.
Wow. A final, truly beautiful sentiment from Zach. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining the Passion Project crew for another fantastic episode, for sharing your passion with us. And thank you, listeners, for listening. That's what you do best, and I really appreciate you, and I hope you have an excellent week. We'll be back next week, which is Halloween, which is really exciting, maybe with a spooky episode. Oh, I don't want to give too much away, but thank you again, Zach, so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening and being awesome. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Whoa! Whoa! Are we, we're off, right?
We're off. I'm going to give this 10 seconds to finish.